Don't argue with a narcissist, just do this to melt his heart. Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you're all doing well. If you're here, it's probably because you've encountered someone in your life who's a bit tricky to handle, possibly a narcissist. And, let's be honest, dealing with a narcissist can feel like walking through a minefield, right? They tend to make every conversation about themselves, push your buttons, and can leave you feeling emotionally exhausted. But here's the thing, arguing with a narcissist is like trying to wrestle with a tornado. It's not going to work in your favor. Today, I'm going to talk about why you should never argue with a narcissist and, instead, what you can do to melt their heart and shift the dynamic in a more positive direction. Alright, let's dive in. If you've ever tried to argue with a narcissist, you know how quickly things escalate. Narcissists have an uncanny ability to deflect blame, twist your words, and somehow make you feel like you're the one at fault, even if they were clearly in the wrong. It's frustrating, to say the least. But why does this happen? To understand this, we need to look at how the narcissist operates on an emotional level. Narcissists crave validation and admiration. They need to feel important, special, and superior. They're like emotional vampires, constantly seeking out praise and attention to fill a deep void within themselves. Because of this, criticism or disagreement, even if it's constructive, feels like a personal attack. When you argue with a narcissist, their immediate response isn't to listen or engage in meaningful dialogue. Instead, their defense mechanisms kick in. They'll go on the offensive, using tactics like gaslighting, blaming, or even turning themselves into the victim to regain control of the situation. This is why arguing with them is so unproductive. The moment you challenge their sense of superiority, they will do whatever it takes to reassert it. So, what's the alternative? If arguing doesn't work, how can you effectively deal with a narcissist without getting caught in a never-ending cycle of conflict? Here's where things get interesting. Instead of arguing, one of the most powerful strategies you can use is to appeal to their need for validation in a way that aligns with your goals. I know this might sound counterintuitive at first, but stick with me. Remember, the narcissist's primary drive is to feel special and admired. If you can tap into that need while still maintaining your boundaries and sense of self, you can create a more harmonious interaction. Instead of pointing out their flaws or engaging in a back-and-forth argument, try shifting the focus. Acknowledge something they've done well, even if it's small, and use that as an entry point to get your message across. This is not about feeding their ego or becoming a pushover. It's about using emotional intelligence to steer the conversation in a more productive direction. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're dealing with a narcissistic colleague who constantly takes credit for your ideas and never acknowledges your contributions. Now, instead of confronting them directly with anger or accusations, which would likely lead to defensiveness or denial, you could approach them like this. Hey, I noticed the way you presented that project idea really got everyone on board. You have a real knack for explaining things in a way that grabs attention. I was thinking that with your ability to present and my knack for coming up with creative ideas, we could make an even stronger team. What do you think? What you're doing here is stroking their ego just enough to open up a dialogue. But you're also positioning yourself as an ally, not a threat. You're not diminishing yourself or your contributions. You're just framing the conversation in a way that appeals to their need for recognition. It's disarming. Rather than feeling attacked, the narcissist now sees an opportunity to further their own success, and because you've linked that success to collaborating with you, they're more likely to consider your perspective. Of course, this strategy doesn't mean you should constantly pander to the narcissist's ego. It's about being strategic in your interactions. If you need to address an issue or set a boundary, try to sandwich your critique or request between moments of validation. For example, Let's say you have a narcissistic family member who constantly makes passive-aggressive comments at family gatherings. Instead of confronting them head-on with frustration or anger, you could say something like, "You're always the life of the party at these gatherings. People really enjoy your humor. I do, too, but sometimes the jokes you make about me feel a little hurtful, even if that's not your intention. I just wanted to share that with you because I know how much you care about making everyone feel included." By doing this, you're framing the conversation in a way that acknowledges their desire to be liked and admired, while still making it clear how their behavior affects you. It's subtle, but it can be incredibly effective. The narcissist is less likely to react defensively because you've already fed their need for validation. And now they're more open to hearing what you have to say. Another important aspect to consider when dealing with a narcissist is managing your own emotions. It's easy to get swept up in the drama or frustration of their behavior, but staying calm and collected is key. Narcissists feed off emotional reactions, whether positive or negative. If you respond with anger or frustration, you're giving them exactly what they want, an emotional reaction that reinforces their control over the situation. Instead, practice emotional detachment. Stay grounded in your own sense of self-worth and refuse to let their provocations get under your skin. This doesn't mean being cold or indifferent, it just means not giving them the emotional fuel they're seeking. Another tool in your arsenal is setting firm, clear boundaries. Narcissists will often test your limits to see how much they can get away with. If you don't establish and enforce boundaries, they'll continue to push and manipulate. But here's the thing, when you set boundaries with a narcissist, you need to do it in a way that doesn't provoke their ego. Instead of saying, "You're always disrespecting my time, and I've had enough," try something like, "I've noticed that I'm more productive when I have time to focus on my work without interruptions. I really value our conversations, but I'd appreciate it if we could schedule a specific time to talk so I can give you my full attention." You're still setting a boundary, but you're doing it in a way that feels less like a personal attack and more like a mutually beneficial solution. This approach minimizes the chances of the narcissist feeling threatened or challenged, which can help you maintain a healthier dynamic. Ultimately, dealing with a narcissist is about recognizing their need for validation and using that understanding to navigate interactions more effectively. You're not feeding into their narcissism. You're simply working with their psychology to create a more balanced, less conflict-ridden relationship. It's about being strategic, not submissive. It's also important to know when to disengage completely. Not every narcissist will respond positively to these strategies, and in some cases, the best thing you can do for your own well-being is to step back and limit your exposure to the toxic behavior. If someone consistently disrespects your boundaries or manipulates you despite your best efforts, it may be time to consider whether that relationship is worth maintaining. Remember, your emotional health is just as important as anyone else's, and it's okay to prioritize your own peace and happiness. So, in conclusion, while it may be tempting to argue with a narcissist or try to prove your point, it's often a futile endeavor. Instead, focus on using validation, emotional intelligence, and strategic boundary setting to navigate these tricky interactions. By doing so, you can diffuse tension, maintain your own sense of self-worth, and potentially even melt the narcissist's heart, or at the very least, create a more manageable and harmonious relationship dynamic. Thank you so much for watching and sticking with me through this discussion. I hope you found these insights helpful and that you can use them in your own life to deal more effectively with the narcissists you encounter. Remember, you have the power to change the dynamic and protect your own peace. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Take care, and I'll see you next time.